Hello and welcome to CX Today. I'm Rhys Fisher, and today I'm going to be speaking with Joseph Kelly, a solutions architect at Miratech. Joe, thanks for joining me. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well, Rhys. Thanks for asking. I'm really looking forward to our conversation.
Yeah, same here. Today we're going to be talking about, the CCaaS space, but I suppose more specifically we're going to be maybe discussing some of the most important aspects of making that initial move to CCaaS. So for you, when it does come to migrating to a new CCaaS platform, how should enterprises decide between perhaps a straight lift and shift approach and a continuous iteration approach?
It's a great question and a good one to start off with, Rhys. Thanks. Um, really look at the way that an enterprise can consume its transformation. Right? We've got to take into account the people who are going to be involved in the transformation and how much work they're actually going to be able to put into it. How much change and transformation can your agents handle at one time? And how much can your customers consume at a single time? I look at things like, you're used to going to a particular website every day where you get your news. And an example, right, the next day you go to that website, it's completely changed. And you spend most of the time trying to figure out where are all the news articles that you're used to consuming on a daily basis, that you really just kind of look back and say, "Well, man, I really would, this has taken way more time than I would have liked. I really wish this website wouldn't have changed," right? And you never really want to get into that predicament as you're moving from typically a premise system, right, over to a CCaaS platform. I really look at this as kind of the continuous integration, or as I just had a customer say to me basically this week, instead of lift and shift, right, as we get into all the ways that you can look at how much change and transformation you can consume at one time, they said lift and shine. And I'm really going to use that kind of going forward. And that it's, what do you have today that works, that you can move over kind of as is, that's not going to be too disruptive to your overall, right, your agent population and your customers? How much of that is with a little bit of tweaking with some of the new features that are going to be available to you on that CCaaS platform? How much of that can really become a really great customer experience for you as you make your way into the continuous iteration, or what I like to coin, or what way I look at it is it's continuous enhancement. We know that all the CCaaS vendors on a continual, right, on a, they all have their own pipelines about what features are coming out and when, and how can you get over to that platform and then really start to consume all of these new features. And you really don't want to get yourself to a point where it's analysis through paralysis. Well, if I made this change, or if I started with this feature, this would solve so many problems, but how long is it going to take me to implement that feature as you move forward, right? And you really want to help to try to time some of these things up around contracts. You really want to make sure as you're moving over, you're getting the most benefit out of that contract, so that you don't feel like you're leaving money on the table.
Yeah, so you talk about that idea of constant enhancement. I suppose perhaps a trade-off of that could be we're seeing these legacy systems that are often it often results in organizations having to juggle kind of multiple vendors and overlapping features. What do you think buyers should do to avoid double paying and to ensure they get the most from a CCaaS provider's native capabilities?
Yeah, another great question. I mean, that kind of leads into, kind of piggybacks off that first question, looking at your premise ecosystem. Many times it's really just a voice system that you've started adding other channels onto, or other features, right? They really don't have call recording native. So you've had to go and find a call recording solution. One of the big ones is really, let's say, workforce management, right? So from that legacy premise system, you've got a workforce management system that you've used for a number of years. That CCaaS vendor is going to want to position a license for you that's going to grow with you through the term of your subscription. And typically that will more than not include workforce management. So now, as you point out, Rhys, right, where do you get in this cycle of, I have a feature that's available to me on the platform I'm moving to. It may not be as feature rich as what I have today, but I do know that there's more features coming. Where is that cutoff point with your current contract so that you're, in essence, not double paying? Or do you make that decision and you say, listen, I really like the workforce management platform that I have. It's worth me purchasing a connector to be able to get the CCaaS data to my workforce platform. And that will allow me to basically back off a bit on my CCaaS subscription, that license. And so it really becomes that balancing act of where do you see, again, roadmaps. You like that workforce management vendor, you've been with them a while, you see where their roadmap is going. You may, depending on the size of customer that you are, you may have influenced or impacted that roadmap. So there's a feature that you need that's unique to your business that vendor is going to fulfill for you, that the new platform, right, you're kind of almost starting over and getting your requests on feature enhancements into the hopper. And that enhancement, if you can convince your CCaaS vendor you're moving to add it to their roadmap, might come far later than where your vendor that you're using today is going to be. So really, as you're making these decisions, you really want to line up all the vendors you have, the feature functionality they're providing. You want to line that up against that CCaaS platform. You want to kind of see where those natural breaks are potentially in your contracts, and then plan for it and have an exit strategy if that's really what you're looking to do, right? Move from this vendor to the native capabilities.
Yeah, yeah. I like what you say there about the balancing act. In some ways, it's almost a little bit like an old school pros and cons list, isn't it? It's breaking down each function and finding out how is this going to perform better for me. Like you said, am I better off sticking or twisting, that kind of thing.
Yeah, sometimes the simplest solutions are the best, right? There's no real reason to overcomplicate things. Like you say, sometimes a good old fashioned pros and cons list, will help you make that decision. So we really like to see and help customers, like you said, with that balancing act. So
Yeah. And I suppose going from a little old fashioned to perhaps the newest tech on the block, we're not going to exactly be breaking any news here when I say that AI, is fairly popular right now. But what we are seeing is that not every deployment is delivering that value. In your opinion, how can organizations build an AI strategy that perhaps starts small, targets those real business needs, and avoids perhaps AI for AI's sake?
yeah, that's a great question. And I think we've reached the point in the conversation where I think we're both contractually obligated to talk about AI, right? It's the kind of the way it seems, right? Everything is AI. And to your point, is it just AI for AI's sake? I think one thing that customers really need to kind of hone in on, right, is strategy. In the CCaaS space and in the customer experience and employee experience space, customers are really big into strategies, and I think that will serve them well here from an AI perspective, and it's going to really help them cut through a lot of the clutter. Right, everything is being marketed as AI, and all the way back to things like an NLU. Right, if you talk to certain vendors, they're going to tell you, oh, we have speech rec, and we have TTS, we have all these great things, and it's all powered by AI. And it's like, well, we've had NLU IVRs for years, right? So part of it is kind of getting through the marketing and sales speak on what is really AI, what's not, and then looking at where do you want to start, right? What side of the equation, right? Are you looking from a strategy perspective to enhance your customer experience with AI? Are you looking to enhance your experience with AI, your agent's experience with AI? And that'll help guide you where you're trying to get to, right? So if we're taking this from an agent perspective, big things that are out there right now are agent assist. We've got, multiple battling use of the word co-pilot. What is this really going to help from an agent experience perspective? And again, back to the AI for AI's sake, it's really great that the technology is there and can help assist agents in answering customer questions, but you've got to really make sure that you've got good data, accurate data, and that the AI, right, is able to get to it, right? So now you've also now have to have it, which you've got to bring in a bit of kind of a data strategy, right? Where am I going to house all of this information? Does it have to be in the CCaaS vendor's platform, which means that if I'm a typical, say, SharePoint user, as an example, and I've done a lot of great things with SharePoint, I have a lot of information that my agents use in SharePoint. Do I have to get all of that information into the CCaaS vendor's platform? So now do I have to manage that data in two different places, right? Do I need a way to connect these things up to be able to make a change in one, one system and make sure that that change propagates over to another? On the customer side, right, figuring out, again, back to NLU, what are you looking to do to help enhance your customer's experience, right? And if you don't have a really stellar customer experience today, adding AI to it is really not going to provide the benefits that you're probably thinking that it can bring forward. So again, let's ground these things out, figure out what your strategy is, figure out what you're trying to accomplish. Can AI help be a tool to get you to what you're looking to accomplish?
Yeah, yeah. It's interesting. You mentioned kind of the importance of data there when it comes to AI, and we also know how kind of vital that is for CCaaS platforms as well. But perhaps no two CCaaS platforms really calculate data in the same way. So I was just wondering, what do you think data insights should enterprises look for, and how can these improve both customer and agent experiences?
Yeah, another great question, right? It all kind of, you can kind of see all these things are kind of melding their right way, and I look at a lot of these things as foundational building blocks, right? If you start with a really good solid foundation, many of these things and topics we're talking about are really just kind of layering these things on, and really providing great value and great enhancement. So with the data side of things, I think a lot of customers get caught up because this has been their world for so long. Where I'm going with this is from a data perspective, they look in terms of how many calls did I answer? What was my containment rate on my IVR? What is my average handle time, right? And so now, as you move to a lot of these newer platforms, as you're starting to bring in a true omni-channel experience, I think you get to look beyond the normal data and reporting analytics that everybody is so used to for so long, and that you can look and see, should I be looking at how ways to deflect interactions coming into my contact center? And I kind of I kind of say it as interactions because now you should be looking across your voice channels. How can I deflect voice calls? How can I deflect chats? How could I deflect emails? With the advent of smartphones and apps, right? Do I have a way to proactively know something about a customer and push, right? Do a push notification to them, either through that mobile app or maybe through an SMS to let them know. We have a lot of credit card companies, right? They'll push fraud alerts, right? Hey, do you know, are you aware? And now you can look and see in this instance, did that hedge or did that prevent someone from having to reach out to the contact center in order to be serviced? So I think you're still going to always have the need for some of the tried and true, as we talked about, pros and cons lists, right? The tried and true metrics that you're going to need. It's going to help you gauge some efficiencies in your contact center, but now really start to step outside the box and look at things. Everybody's trying to get what CSAT as an example. Well, one of the things that may go into that now is, again, push notifications, things go into their mobile phones. Are they happier with this? We know with younger generations, I know I got a lot of gray hair here, right? They're a more digital first generation, right? Now with this data that you have and the analytics that you have, I think we're truly to the point where we can start really capitalizing on omnichannel. One of the big things on omnichannel is know your customer and know the channels that they want to communicate with you across. So now you've got really great data and analytics overall on your customer, and now you can really start to take advantage of that and meet them on the channel of their choice, and really only need to escalate as an example. There's only so much you can do through an app. There's only so much you can potentially do through a chat. And sometimes, I do it today, right? I'll be talking with someone on, let's say Teams as an example. And it's like, this is taking way too long for me to get my point across. If we could just talk real time, in 30 seconds, I'm done. Everybody's good. So now you can see, oh, there's now a metric where I reached out. Yeah, there was a voice call, but instead of that voice call taking 10 minutes, that voice call now took 30 seconds. And now, your CSAT has gone up. So I think, tried and true data analytics are great, but the platforms now are getting you to basically start to, look outside of traditional metrics.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's interesting. We've spoken a lot so far and had a lot of insights into kind of getting the most out of that new CCaaS platform, or tips for selecting the right vendor almost. Just as the last question, I was interested in perhaps looking at what does success actually look like when you move to a new CCaaS platform, and how do you think enterprises can measure this?
That's a great question, right? We'll put a little bow on this and see if we can take it home from here. I think again it gets back to laying a good foundation, understanding your strategy of what you're trying to do, right? If you're going in, as we're strategy wise, we're saying we want to move digital first, right? Well, what does that really mean from a strategy perspective, right? It's all well and good to say we're going to try and drive people to our mobile application, or we want them conversing with us via chat. But if you have a large population of your customer base, right, that isn't wanting to converse, right, doesn't want to talk to you on that channel, trying to drive them to a channel they don't want to use, while you might see that success and you're saying we've reduced the number of calls into the contact center and we've seen our chat rates go up, you may start to see your CSAT scores go down, right? So a lot of this is, again, getting back to what are you trying to do? What's the strategy? It goes all the way back to things like we've talked about. AI, right? Is, if you're gonna change your IVR strategy, many customers for years had an IVR strategy, which was no matter what, I'm going to make this incredibly difficult for you to talk to a human, right? To get to a live agent, right? And if you employ that same strategy with AI, right? Again, you might look at this as being successful, but your customer's experience, right, overall is going to go down. There's things that you really can't solve. AI can't solve, although we'd love for it to solve every problem. Success may also look like reduced number of calls into the contact center, but these calls may take longer. And the reason for that is it's simply that there are more edge cases getting down to the agents. My wife just had this happen to her, and I use this now when I talk to customers about AI and talking about what their strategy is. And do you understand, while your call times, the number of calls may go down, the call time may go up. So my wife, like so many people, you buy something online, you get an email that says your package has been delivered. My wife goes to the front door. She opens the front door. There's no package. She looks at the email that she got, right? And it says your package was delivered at 10 a.m. Well, it was 8 a.m. She knew, because, well, she's lived with me for so many years and all these wonderful contact center problems, that she had to call immediately and couldn't wait, right? And so got to the IVR, the virtual agent, said, what's your problem? Said, my package, it's a lost package. The AI goes and looks up and sees that the package was delivered. It says your package was delivered. My wife's like, nope, I want to talk to somebody. This company let them get to a live agent. She gets to the live agent. Of course, they get the info from the bot. They get a screen pop. They get all these great things. My wife says, my package wasn't delivered. The agent says, the person says, no, I show on the screen it was delivered. My wife says, could you look at the time it was delivered? And you could hear the, oh, because it's 8:30 in the morning and now it's 10 a. It said it was delivered at 10 a.m. So again, success is going to be what you're trying, making sure that you're putting forward what you're trying to accomplish, understanding that while you're pushing things in one direction, naturally, right, things are going to start to go up. As we talk about, hey, I can solve more things with AI, I can solve more things through different channels, but the amount of time that one of my agents now needs to spend with a customer goes up. You've got to bake that into your overall success metrics, because in the, kind of the old school mind of contact centers, right? The bane of everyone's existence is handle time's got to be low. And as you start to see these things creep up, you're saying we moved to this new platform and it's terrible. And it's like, no, this is a byproduct of all the things you've put forward with your strategy. And this is a normal outcome, right? It's the new normal, right? So again, figure these things out ahead of time, have people, give you right, straightforward, real world examples of things that you may encounter, so that, with me, you put that in the back of your head and later you go, oh, I see our call times are ticking up. We really should dig into why, right? We're seeing the number of calls going down, handle times are going up. We have great tools at our disposal, speech analytics, transcriptions, right? We can ask AI to summarize things for us. So, to me, that success, right, defining the success and being able to continually enhance what that success looks like is a key piece of any move or any transformation that you're going to undertake.
Yeah, I think that's a perfect place to leave things. I think. Thank you, Joe. I think it's been really interesting. I think it will resonate really well with our audience, because I think, it is a very crowded marketplace right now. And I read a report the other day that the CCaaS space, it's set to triple in value by 2030. So it's only going to get busier. So having this advice that can really help people pick through that market and pick what's the best solution for them, I think that's going to be really valuable for people.
I agree, right? I think it's a great time to be in the space. I think we're seeing a lot of great technology coming forward. We're seeing some consolidations in the marketplace. We're seeing some pairings that probably people didn't expect happening in the marketplace. So it's a really exciting time. And overall, right, just going into it kind of eyes wide open and really back to that foundation, your strategy. What are you looking to do? Realize that your platform is going to continuously improve. You should now be looking at continuously improving, which has been very difficult from a premise perspective. So, Rhys, this has been a great time and a great call. I really appreciate it. Thanks.
Yeah, absolutely. I would also just like to quickly, before we wrap this up, just to thank our viewers for tuning in. If you did enjoy this chat, please remember to like and subscribe to the channel, and you can head on over to CX Today for more stories like these. Until next time, thank you for watching.